One of the most fun features in any new Pokemon game would have to be when we receive new evolutions to previously introduced Pokemon. It doesn't happen in every generation, but when it does, it's always a treat, because having a Pokemon evolve that didn't before is just about the coolest thing ever. So with that in mind, why don't we create some ourselves? Today I am going to be showing you 5 new evolutions to older Pokemon that I have created with the help of some very talented artists who will also be linked in the description. These Pokemon all come from my Pokemon Cardinal series, which you should definitely check out if you haven't yet, and I'll be going into their design, inspirations, background, and more. Really quick before we get into that, however, I'd like to tell you about an amazing new game that could also feature Pokemon Cardinal content within it, and that would be the sponsor of today's video, Anitons. Anitons is a new Pokemon-like RPG which lets you explore a huge open world, capturing creatures and surviving in the wilderness in a sort of Sims meets Pokemon meets Breath of the Wild kind of combination. This game is currently up on Kickstarter, and this week is the final week to support the game before its fundraising deadline on December 5th. The campaign offers several different tiers that you can support at, with a ton of cool benefits including a copy of the game itself, early access to the beta, a digital download of the soundtrack, and even an Aniton plushie and exclusive access to an Aniton made available just for backers. What might just be the most exciting part for us here on this channel though, is that if the game is able to be funded, content from my Pokemon Cardinal series will even be put into the game, including the player characters Reed and Wendy's outfits that you will be able to wear during your adventure, as well as the chance to even have one of Norclow's own, the Stowball family, made into actual Anitons themselves. So if you've ever felt like Pokemon Cardinal would be cool to play as an actual game, now is your chance to do it. Thank you so much to the Anitons development team for sponsoring the video and supporting the channel. You can find their Kickstarter with the link below, and again, this is the final week to support the campaign, so go show some love to this awesome project, and we might just be able to make it and Pokemon Cardinal into a playable experience after all. First, why don't we start with a Pokemon that many have wanted to receive an evolution for the longest time, and that would be Dunsparce. Many attempts have been made by fans to give Dunsparce an evolution throughout the years, and with the creation of Pokemon Cardinal, I wanted to throw my hat into that ring and see what kind of Dunsparce evolution I would make if I were to design one myself. Well, after some thought, Sinnohsparce is what I came up with Dark and Windy drawing the artwork for me. Many Dunsparce evolutions attempt to turn its evolution into a dragon type, and because of that I wanted to do something different, in addition to the fact that there really isn't anything super dragony about Dunsparce's inspiration. Instead, I decided to focus on the fact that Dunsparce actually has traits of other types despite the fact that it is a pure normal type. In particular, it has wings like a flying type and is known for burrowing into the ground like a ground type. So with that in mind, I decided to make Sinnohsparce evolve from a normal type into a ground flying type, and really grow into those features that it shows as a Dunsparce. You might think that going from normal to ground flying is a bit unusual, and yeah, it kind of is, but I felt in this situation it made a lot of sense for Dunsparce, especially because I also designed it as a regional evolution, meaning that the conditions in my region of Norclow were so optimal for Dunsparce as a species that it was able to flourish and fully grow into its ground and flying type features. Its name is also interesting because it comes from sparse, just like the pre-evolution referring to its rarity, and Sinopia, which is an orangish shade of brown, and this is used due to the Dun in Dunsparce's name being a word that also describes a shade of brown, and goes along with its new ground typing as well. Finally, it would evolve from Dunsparce by level up while knowing both a ground and flying type move. It may be somewhat tame compared to other Dunsparce evolution designs, but I believe this is more of the direction an actual Dunsparce evolution would take if one ever happened for real. The other evolution I did that basically everyone else does that I wanted to take a crack at myself was creating a new evolution. While there are a number of types to choose from that Eevee has yet to evolve into, I again wanted to do something different than the status quo. These days, usually, there's a lot of talk about a dragon-type evolution, or maybe a ghost-type evolution, so I decided to forego the well-worn path and try for a fighting-type evolution instead, and Karadion is the final result of that. Now, honestly, I can't take too much credit for the design itself, as the artwork was done by Oscar Belmonte, and I didn't have too many specifications on how I wanted it to look exactly, but Oscar knocked it out of the park nonetheless. Its name obviously comes from karate and the eon suffix that all evolutions share, and while I did not necessarily specify the way I wanted this Pokemon to look, it actually ended up fitting quite well in my Norclo region. This is because it has a very martial artist type of look, and martial arts are largely Asian inspired. And while Norclo is a region based on Canada, it kinda sorta references the fact that Eevee comes from Kanto, which is based on the Kanto region of Japan. I also made its evolution condition be that it evolves from a new kind of evolutionary stone called a Knuckle Stone, because I'm personally of the belief that all evolutions should be streamlined and evolve with some kind of stone, but hey, that could just be me. Overall though, I am extremely happy with Karadion, and I hope we see a new evolution soon, because it has been a good while. For our third evolution, it's for a Pokemon that isn't typically brought up in the new evolution discussion, but it's one that I feel could receive an evolution, and an awesome one at that, and that would be Heliolisk. I always thought that it was a huge missed opportunity that Helioptile and Heliolisk had so much to do with the sun because their names come from Helios, the personification of the sun in Greek mythology, and Helioptile evolves with the use of a sunstone, but yet they aren't part fire type and are instead part normal of all things. Given that this would have given us the first electric fire type, other than Heat Rotom of course, it would have been amazing, but alas, it did not happen that way, and that is a huge shame, so I decided to fix that with an evolution of my own, which became Helioven, who was once again drawn and designed by Oscar Belmonte. Since adding the fire type onto this Pokemon to take advantage of its sun inspirations was the main point of creating the Pokemon in the first place, embellishing those sun characteristics was priority number one. Its neck frills, which resemble the sun, were made even more pronounced, and it was given a more sunset-esque color scheme as well. That is all fairly straightforward just by looking at the Pokemon, but what isn't so straightforward is its name. I imagine if you have watched Pokemon Cardinal that you may have wondered where the name Helioven comes from. Well, the Helio obviously comes from Helios, just like its pre-evolutions, but the Ven part is another element that has to do with the region this Pokemon comes from. Since Heliolisk was receiving an evolution in this region specifically, I wanted its evolution to be tied to the Canadian-based region in some way, which is why the second part of its name comes from Raven. In Canada, there is a tribe of Native Americans known as the Haida, and within their mythology there is a raven that is said to have brought the sun to the world. In addition, another interesting thing about this name is that it actually follows a trend with each member of this family having an animal name as a part of theirs, as Helioptile contains reptile, Heliolisk contains basilisk, and Helioven, of course, the raven. As for its method of evolution, it would have to be exposed to a Firestone while at the same time knowing the move Sunny Day in order to evolve, in order for it to fully receive its new fire type. This is easily one of my more favorite Pokemon from the Cardinal series, and it's one that should definitely happen in the official games. Now this next one is one that is way out there in terms of its concept, but that's why I like it so much. I'm not sure too many people have thought of giving Cinccino an evolution, but for some reason I thought it would be interesting to see what could be possible there, and Cinccilla is the end result of that, with the artwork once again being provided by Oscar Belmonte. Now, the wacky thing about Chinchilla is that it's not only normal type like its pre-evolutions, but psychic as well, and I'm sure you're all wondering where the heck that came from. Well, first and foremost, it was because during development of my Pokemon Cardinal series, I came to a point where I needed more psychic types, and I also needed another older Pokemon to give an evolution to. I focused in on the Unova region since I wanted to give some representation to as many regions as I could in my project, and Cinccino came out on top as my pick given all of those factors. So that's the technical explanation, but in terms of an in-universe explanation, the idea is that this would be another regional evolution. Since Norclo is based on Canada, it makes it a pretty cold place in certain areas, and the cold temperature is something that the Minccino and Cinccino can't handle that reside there. However, instead of faltering to the cold, they were able to adapt to it and gained psychic powers as a way of being able to move themselves around, since the cold would normally leave these Pokemon frozen in place. Similar to Sinnoh-Sparse, Cinccino evolves into Chinchilla by leveling up 10 levels while also knowing a psychic type move. And finally, its name comes from Psychic, Chinchilla, and also Chill for good measure, referencing the cold that it has adapted to. Like Dunsparce, another classic Johto Pokemon that does not evolve is Shuckle, but like, what if it did? I don't know that Shuckle will ever actually evolve for real, given that it's kind of a gimmick Pokemon with its high defenses, but the nice thing about being a fan is that we can ignore those rules and just do it anyway for the fun of it, which is why I created Tanduckle with the help of, once again, Oscar Belmonte. Believe it or not, when creating this evolution, it actually got merged with another idea for a completely separate Pokemon that did not make the final cut of Pokemon Cardinal. You see, given that my region was based on Canada, I knew I had to have a hockey Pokemon of some kind. However, after coming up with some concept sketches, I decided to go in a different direction as far as implementing a hockey Pokemon into this region, and that is where Shuckle came in. I had already decided that Shuckle was going to receive an evolution in my series, and upon deciding to combine these two ideas together, I imagined that its shell could become a hockey helmet once it evolved, and its defenses would grow even more, resulting in it becoming part steel type instead of rock. The reason for this was the fact that Shuckle in Norclo are preyed upon by Condibore, a local bird Pokemon, so Shuckle had to evolve in order to survive and protect itself. This is also why it grew a second head as another act of self-defense in order to be able to better scan its surroundings. As far as the hockey inspiration, the hockey helmet that was originally meant to be its shell turned into a hockey mask, due to the fact that a hockey mask has many holes just like Shuckle's shell. Also, while it was completely by coincidence, it's actually quite fitting for the Pokemon that its shell mask gives off some Jason Voorhees vibes, since Tanduckle has become a very aggressive and ruthless Pokemon due to it being preyed upon. Finally, its name comes from Tandem, referring to its two heads, and the name of its pre-evolution Shuckle. It also evolves from Shuckle by leveling up while knowing the move Iron Defense. Well, there you have it. Those are some evolutions to old Pokemon that I have created. If you enjoyed checking out these Pokemon, consider giving my Pokemon Cardinal series a watch if you haven't yet, because there are tons more new Pokemon to see there as well. You can also support this channel further if you would like, as well as videos just like this, by listening to my Pokemon remixes on Spotify, as well as other streaming services. With that said, I will see you all soon with another video, and until then, as always, I love you all, and I will smell you guys later.